I miss you so much, my Wiley.
Oh, Stephanie Miller, if only I could give you a hug.
Aw.
Me too. This literally is the 3.5 minutes you're not on MSNBC. So let's go.
Well, and thank you for the song. I have told my kids for a long time that I'm fire, but they just never believed me.
You're the coolest mom ever. Oh my God, I don't even know where to start. There's so much, right? I mean, it is. This is just. I have to be, even for this administration. Oh, by the way, happy Juneteenth, which apparently nobody had ever heard of until Donald Trump made it famous.
Yeah.
Yes, well, at least we can say he did something for black people, which he's been trying to take a victory lap on, apparently.
Oh, it's just, this Wall Street Journal interview is a whole nother level. But so let's start with the Supreme Court, obviously, because you're such a great, source of everything. I'm following you on Twitter when I can't talk to you. So it obviously was like a good week, right? I mean, in terms of DACA and I mean, first of all, what kind of deed you have to be like, oh, we can't fire gay people or kids that have been here since they were born, or little kids have to stay here? I mean, it's just, these seem like no-brainers, these decisions, don't they, in terms of basic fairness?
They're no-brainers in terms of basic fairness and good policy. They're also, particularly when we're talking about DACA, deferred action, allowing people who are American, who see themselves as American, whose whole developmental lives, for the most part, have been in the United States. The idea that we wouldn't allow them to work and go to school and feed their families and recognize them as the part of us that they are is something that's very popular with Republicans. It's a bipartisan policy. The primary complaints people had about it, not the only ones, there are obviously anti-immigration forces that were extremely conservative. But, the reality is a lot of Republicans were more upset about the process of getting to DACA than the actual policy of DACA, right?
Yeah.
And so but the idea that people who right now to this day have children who are U.S. citizens, about 250,000 of the 700,000 are parents with children who are U.S. citizens. They are working. They are going to school. They are paying taxes. They serve in the military. They serve in hospitals. They drive ambulances. I mean, these are people who have often been the very people on the front lines of coronavirus, still working, still showing up, endangering themselves. And most Americans agree that there's just really no rational reason why we wouldn't be allowing them to be a part of a fabric of our country.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's so popular, I think, is because people recognize that it just doesn't make sense not to recognize these people, these parents, these fathers and mothers as part of us.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, can we
thank
talk
God
about?
That there's a little respite.
Yeah. I mean, can we talk about how dumb this was, though, politically and legally? Somebody tweeted, Trump's throwing a temper tantrum over DACA. Recall he unilaterally ended it, then punted it to Congress. It's all on him. He did it. A majority of Americans support DACA and Dreamers. Good luck, Republicans. Keep going backwards in history. Wear that MAGA hat right up until the end. So, right, I mean, this is, so Supreme Court Justice John Roberts said Trump's administration's rationale for rescinding DACA was arbitrary and capricious. So, as someone said, it almost was like he was saying, "Oh, just at least lie better," right? I mean,
well,
someone else said it's not Chief Justice Roberts is a closet progressive. He's not. It's that the Trump administration is really bad at administrative law, right?
Well, it's that, and that it was a divided administration when it came to this policy. I think part of the backstory here that people may remember from 2017 is there was a lot of flip-flopping. And, the woman whose name I always get wrong, so I'm not even going to repeat it. I got it wrong on MSNBC yesterday. But she was the interim head of Homeland Security and thought it was a mistake to try to undermine DACA, thought it was a program that should be maintained. And so when Jeff Sessions Stephen Miller didn't agree. So when it came time to say, get rid of it, what she did in the memo that she wrote to end the program was essentially not make an argument for ending it because she didn't believe there was a good argument for ending it. She just lifted what Jeff Sessions' position was, which was a very basic, not very well supported in the law, to say the least, position that DACA was unlawful.
Well,
that it was
unconstitutional. As someone said, key point, SCOTUS didn't say Trump can't rescind DACA, just that he didn't do it the right way. If Trump wins re-election, he can try it again and might succeed. And you tweeted about a DACA recipient, which, how touching was the whole home is here on the steps of the Supreme Court. But a DACA recipient you retweeted said, this is not a long-term solution. Trump could choose to rescind this program tomorrow. He knows how to do it. The Supreme Court's telling him. So we're not safe. So I'm going to celebrate today, but I'm going to fight tomorrow. And you just said this is a sobering reminder how we vote matters. Election 2020 is about what kind of country we choose to be. I choose caring and cohesive. So it's never over, right? I mean,
No, it's never over. It's not. And it never will be with this administration, and frankly, with any administration, right? This is, the reason we had DACA as an executive order from the Obama administration is because we couldn't get comprehensive immigration reform through Congress, even when everyone was agreeing that there should be some legislative action. And again, this was one of the ones that. It's one you would expect that Republicans would see as an opportunity, even if they're going to disagree on other aspects of immigration reform. And, it's just what most Americans don't get, I think, or understand about the larger immigration discussion, even when you put DACA aside, is just how hard it is to get into to go through a sensible legal process to get recognized as someone who can be here in the country. Like people who are parents trying to get children into the country wait an average of up to 12 years going through the legal process to do that. 12 years. I mean, it's such a broken system that, for all the people who say, well, why don't they just come lawfully? And I think it's because there's not an understanding of just how broken the system is to begin with. So it's just set up to incentivize people to try to avoid it because it's just monstrous.
Yeah.
But I think the point here is, yes,
Go
we
ahead.
need leadership that says we're going to fix these problems.
Yeah. Well, you've got to be, as such a long time, activist, in addition to all your other just fantastic attributes. You got to, what's happening in the streets and in the polling, you've got to feel heartened. I mean, I think you were talking about Cory Booker's legislation about, Confederate monument removal. And you said, boy, this has been a very long Civil War. You think? I mean, we really need to nip this Confederacy thing in the bud, don't we?
I think it's Juneteenth. Let's end this Civil War now.
But I mean, exactly. But there's those you're going, really, we can't get anti-lynching, legislation done when, I don't know if you're seeing this. I don't know. What are we up to 5 or 6 of these black men suicides, quote unquote, of people being hung in trees? I mean, I'm just,
and we don't know what that. Look, and hate crimes have been on the rise. So obviously, what anti-Semitism, Islamophobia have been on the rise in staggering numbers. 60% of hate crimes are still against black people in this country, and it's been on the rise. And, the Trump administration, well, let me back up. So, because you were asking an activism question, and I am heartened. So let's I was about to go to the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Let's stick with the good stuff, which is exactly to your point, Stephanie. The sea change here, and something that I've never seen in my lifetime, isn't the activism. The activism has always been here. It's been here for hundreds of years. If we went through a whole history from slave rebellions through Reconstruction, through the Harlem Renaissance, we could go through every single generation of black lives has been a generation that has included black activism. What is new here is not the activism itself. What is new here is that we have seen a sea change in the understanding and the recognition of people who are white in this country that systemic racism is in fact real, here, present, and that we have to face it. That's the change. Because, even in polling, 3, 4, 5 years ago, you wouldn't have seen 7 out of 10 Americans saying systemic racism is a serious problem in this country. That just simply wouldn't have happened. And in fact, most of my life as an advocate and an activist has been facing polls where we're trying to figure out how to explain to people who are white that no, in fact, black people are doing less well than white people. We had polls showing that people thought it was easier for black people to get jobs than for white people to get jobs, even when the unemployment rate was twice as high in the black community.
Yeah.
We had people, thinking that somehow black people were getting free rides to college when, in fact, black people were struggling to afford college. I mean, so, now we all are. I think some of it is that, everyone is struggling to afford college. So there's more of that linked fate recognition. But I think that is the real change, is recognition. And it's not inevitability. Recognition is not enough. If we don't understand in this country that in cities like New York, and not only New York, where we have private hospitals and we have public hospitals, and the public hospitals were overrun with patients and under-resourced. And the private hospitals had a lot to worry about too, but they weren't carrying any of the share of low-income Black, Latino, Asian patients that public hospitals were.
Right.
And public hospitals are barely making it. And this is the kind of issue that points to the systemic. And the systemic doesn't necessarily mean intentional. It doesn't mean I don't like black people.
That's a good point.
It means I'm unwilling to see how the benefits and burdens of this society are not fairly shared because we set it up in a history of racism. So I just want people to understand that, as we saw with coronavirus, all it is doing is peeling back the veil of exactly how we have structured opportunities, how we have structured resources, how we've enabled people to not be able to see a doctor when they're sick, even when they're working because they don't have the health insurance. And then even when they have that insurance, they can't get quality and unbiased care.
Yeah.
And so that's systemic.
Absolutely. Maya, I got to get to George Floyd and Rayshard Brooks, because you've been so eloquent on that as well. In terms, speaking of, some good news and some progress. I mean, the fact that police have been charged in these cases and arrested, which, I know this downside of it is we're like, oh, okay, so it has to be on tape and it has to be really awful. But, and you said one thing, you said felony murder charges as in George Floyd for the Rayshard Brooks cops. You said also an incident that didn't require arrest. I needed to ask you that because I'm not a lawyer. Why, when he said, my aunt lives right there, I'm just going to walk home, why would they just not go, great? I mean, I know in my heart, if that was me, they would have said, sure, little stupid drunk white lady, go home. Right? I mean, if it was some people would have been driven home. Mm-hmm. Thank you. How about I give you a ride?
They would have been delivered home, not even told, go walk home, and here's your summons, and here's when you have to be in court. Yeah. And we're impounding your car.
Yeah.
This is exactly why so many people are protesting. We have a policing system that is about control and containment of black people and of Latinos and of Native Americans, where we have a large number of Native American population. It is not what it should be. It should be about public safety, and that should mean problem solving. Instead, it's about containment, it's about control, and in particular of people who society fears. Yeah. Even when the activity is not fear-inducing. And remember that in the case of Rayshard Brooks, the 911 call made clear that she did not believe he had a gun. He was just asleep. She just wanted the car out of the way. There was nothing even in the initial call that would have put officers on alert, let alone what they saw when they got there.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that we saw that we was not in the original videotape that was released from the charges that is so bone-chilling and tells you everything you need to know is when they kicked his body.
Yeah.
Is when they stood on his body, his dead body, that after putting 2 bullets in his back for running away from what exactly? Being arrested for DUI?
Not only didn't call for help, probably contributed to his death.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, and did not call for. But my point is, they did not see him as worthy of human compassion. Ultimately, at its roots, they did not see him as worthy of human compassion. We saw that in Ahmaud Arbery. We saw that in Eric Garner.
Yeah.
We can go down the list of where we haven't seen it. And the recognition now that you cannot separate that from the color of his skin, that you cannot peel back and pretend like the color of his skin did not matter, his dehumanization. And I think that's why there's more understanding now, coupled with what people saw in coronavirus, that this is simply not just an issue of tinkering. This is a demand for transformation.
Yeah. The saddest words ever is when we're out of time with Maya Wiley, because we didn't even get to, it's so critical we hear your voice, because we are in such a dangerous period. You even talked about this guy just arrested, this far-right extremist Boogaloo movement guy who shot the, and meanwhile we have an attorney general who keeps saying it's Antifa when it is these far-right people that are committing the actual violence and obviously gunning for civil war. And we're just moving into a very dangerous period. And we haven't even gotten to John Bolton and his now a warning. Everything you said in the impeachment trial was true and more, right?
Well, I'm happy not to talk about John Bolton on Juneteenth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But just keep doing the Lord's work, Maya, just so I know you are just calming and a nation when you speak out so eloquently as you do. Thanks so much for slumming with us again.
Thank you so much. Be well, be safe.
You too.
And I hope to hug you soon.
Me too. I know, that's good news, bad news era. I think I got you to say yes to New York Sexy Liberal. Now there is no New York Sexy Liberal.
Exactly.
Welcome to my life. All right.
Take
All right.
care.
Love you, Maya.
Thanks.
Okay.
Love you.